You're listening to a Pop House Network podcast for developers by developers. Welcome to Java OffHeap episode 53, our first video episode. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us here, in another, social distancing episode. If you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Freddie Guime. I'm one of the co-hosts here, the Java OffHeap podcast. I'm one of the principal engineers at Expedia, author, speaker, Seattle Java User Group co-organizer, and I'm here with my usual suspects in video for the first time.
Yes. So Bob Paul, an independent consultant from Chicago, Apache Software Foundation member, Java champion, speaker, and CJUG board chair.
My name is Josh Juneau. I'm a Java developer and database administrator by day, author and open source contributor by night. And I'm Java champion, Apache NetBeans committer, CJUG board member of the Jakarta EE Guardians, and I do some work with the EE4J projects.
Michael Manella, member of the Spring Engineering team, author, speaker, Java champion, Jakarta EE batch committer, and Java champion.
That's a new one for you, Jakarta EE. You're getting back.
I finally got my paperwork. I finally got the paperwork all signed up. So yes, I officially have the access. I have the power.
Yes. See who annoys you on Twitter now, right? So, very first things first. For those who have frosty beverage, cheers. I'm having my usual rum and coke. So. And before we dive in, I did wanted to thank Datadog. Today's show is sponsored by Datadog, the monitoring and analytics platform for end-to-end visibility into your Java applications. Datadog provides customizable dashboards, algorithm alerts, and distributed tracing in one place to help you resolve detected Java problems faster. With support for over 400 technologies and automatic instrumentation for popular Java frameworks, you can start monitoring your Java applications alongside the rest of your stack in minutes. Start your free Datadog trial today to start monitoring your Java applications in real time. Listeners of this podcast will receive a free t-shirt once you install the agent and create one dashboard. Visit javaoffheap.com/Datadog. Again, javaoffheap.com/Datadog. And we thank them for being an avid sponsor of our Java OffHeap podcast. They make sure that our mics are on and that we can keep recording these and having rum and cokes and scotches. So thanks, Datadog. So if this is the first time you have tuned in, or even if you tuned for a long time, in the video podcast, this is how we look. Like Michael said, we have faces made for radio, but
sorry. I was making the comments earlier that figures we would choose to do this episode video, the first video episode, after being stuck in quarantine for over 2 months. So
without access to barbershops.
Exactly.
Yeah. You can tell whose mother is a hairdresser, though. So
I'm just showing off. There you go. No, it's starting to get like the 70s look. It's gonna be bad. But hey,
it's all puffy out back here. It's like the big ball of hair at the back.
Hats are very popular right now.
especially for video meetings, right? But yeah, so we're pretty excited about it, and we'll see if the format works. But I guess. We've been such in quarantine. There are a lot of news to go through, and a special sort of like happy birthday. So let's start in. Josh, you created the agenda. Who starts?
Well, first, a couple of weeks for Michael, I think. Right?
So cool. So Spring Boot 2.3 is now generally available. Big release for us. Just going down the list of what's new. So obviously you get the usual dependency upgrades, which is cool. Some Java 14 support. So we can now actually run against Java 14. Some of the bigger features, though, for 2.3, Docker support. So now Spring Boot with the Boot plugin for both Maven and Gradle, you can build Docker images with just a command at the command line as part of your build process. Now that is either using the native build packs or doing it natively. We can do layered Docker images. It's so a lot of cool options there to check out.
So no Docker build necessary anymore?
Yeah, you don't need to bring in third-party plugins to do Docker images with Boot anymore.
Wow.
Sorry, Spotify.
We also have Graceful Shutdown for all the different web servers that we support. So Jetty Reactor, Netty, Tomcat, and Undertow. So with regards to cloud environments where there's a good chance things are going to get restarted and whatnot, related to that, liveliness and readiness probes that will work with Kubernetes. Those are now available. Upgrade to Spring Data Newman and all of that whole release train, including GA support for R2DBC. I think that's about it. Related to this, though, which I believe is the next item on the agenda, is that Spring Boot is going from an annual release cadence to a 6-month release cadence. So we just did 2.3 right now. The date we did it was 15th, so a couple weeks ago. And so 6 months from now, we'll do 2.4.
Nice. I mean, so here's a question: Is it the 6 months also to sort of like follow up the Java the Java support, or is it just 6 months? Is a good time?
Actually, the driver really was less about Java and more about the databases. So Spring Data was really the driver for the 6-month release cadences because we had all the different driver changes, Mongo, Neo4j, Couchbase, etc. All those evolve at different paces, and we get releases throughout the year. And so some of them, if you missed the boot release cycle, it was up to a year or before you exactly, and people were clamoring for that stuff sooner. So we decided we'd give 6 months a try. Boot 2.3, if you haven't been keeping track, actually was our first 6 month release. So that one was 6 months off of 2.2, and it was palatable enough for the team. So we're gonna announce it and move forward with a 6 month release cadence going forward.
Did you guys have to change anything to your release cadence to support 6 months, or was it a fairly seamless thing?
It was a fairly seamless thing. There's no like major process changes or anything like that. Really, it was more of just a coordination between both above and below the boot level, right? Because you've got basically framework, micrometer, reactor, like those at the foundation. Then you've got basically all of the workloads, so Spring Integration, Spring Batch, Spring Data, all those, Spring Security. Then you've got Boot, and then you've got Spring Cloud, which builds on top of Boot. And getting all those to coordinate, I mean, you're talking over 50 projects to get those releasing in a cadence that we were all comfortable with. So, for example, Boot has gone to a 6 month release cadence. Framework has not. So this does not have a minor upgrade for Spring Framework itself. Framework will remain currently on the annual cadence. So 2.4 should get a framework upgrade.
Okay. No, and that was the other thing. Like, which version was micrometer introduced?
So it was introduced in 2.0, but with that release, we also backported to 1.5. So there's an additional jar you can bring in to support 1.5 as well.
I see. So okay, so it is semantic versioning then. So 2.3 should not be any issues on 2.2.
We actually should talk about that as well. Something that we did that didn't make the agenda. The Spring
People
team
can see your face right now.
I know. I said face for radio. I'm not joking, guys. But the Spring team has changed the way we're the schemas for our versioning. So for projects, so Spring Boot, Spring Framework, Spring Batch, all those things. We're doing semantic version, basically like we always have. There's just a minor difference, which compared to what we used to do, which was before it was major.minor.patch dot qualifier, so .m1.rc1
release
dot build hyphen snapshot. We're changing that now to major.minor.patch hyphen qualifier, and for snapshots we're dropping the build dash. Sorry, Bob. That means that was there for OSGI, and so
you guys haven't been contributing to that for some time. I don't think anyone's going to be sad.
Exactly. Yeah. that was kind of the agreement was like, if you can't just grab something from Spring and use it with OSGI, you have to do your own metadata for it anyway. So it's no different.
Yeah, and all the folks that do that do it with releases now anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah. So that's the project level. We've also had named release trains for a while. So like Spring Data with their ones, Spring Cloud does theirs.
Cloud, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So we're dropping the named release trains. It was confusing to users.
Yeah.
It was, which one should I be using? What are the orders, et cetera. So with release trains, we're actually going to, instead of Semver, we're going to Calver. So Calver is actually what like Ubuntu uses.
Got it.
So, for
Calendars.
example,
We get furry animals.
Year, month. No.
No, it's actually just
year,
gonna be,
month.
it's actually year
14.3 or 03 type.
We're not using month though.
Okay.
It's just year.minor.patch and then the same qualifier thing at the end.
Makes sense. So like Java then.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Java version, which is not the Java, not Java 14.
Yeah. That one we screwed up.
There actually is a calver.org, and that's what we're basing it on.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So yeah.
Got it. No, yeah, okay. So I'm cautiously optimistic because I know like it hurt moving from 1 to 2, but if it's Semver on Spring Boot, then it's fine. Like, and it is suspiciously interesting because one of the things I noticed is that when the new Spring Boot version is released, and I don't know if this is coincidence, but we have sort of like an OWASP dependency checks. So what they do is like they try to see what is the OWASP 10, and it seems to always trigger either just after or close to a Spring Boot drop. Because I think it happened on 2.3 where suddenly like all our projects were like screaming out like there's new vulnerabilities, and it was like, oh, okay. And
that's the way CVEs are handled in general, though, right? I mean, you don't announce a CVE until the fix is publicly available, and so the OWASP tool wouldn't know about it until we've released the fix to the wild. I mean, that's responsible reporting and responsible management of CVEs.
But the thing is, like, the OWASP does not report that there's a vulnerability on Spring Boot. OWASP will report there is a vulnerability on Jackson version.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, it's all the same. It's kind of the same thing, though. I mean, Boot's going to pick it up at the same timing. It's yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't know what happens behind the scenes. I'm just saying it's close enough that it feels correlated. So, anyways, it makes me great. So I'm using 2.3 now.
Cool.
All right. Next one.
So we have GraalVM 20.1 has been released. And there's a feature release from the master branch that includes a number of improvements across all the components of the distribution, including faster runtime. One new feature is improved Kotlin coroutine support in the GraalVM compiler. So that's pretty interesting. In the past, the GraalVM compiler didn't know how to process irreducible loops in Java bytecode. And this is a particularly rare pattern in the bytecode where you can jump in the middle of the loop code without visiting the loop entrance. And this goes ahead and allows
that is
let me just skim down to use Kotlin coroutines inside the loop. So kind of gets around that issue, and it seems like it'd be a pretty interesting feature here. Also,
Why
that there's. Go
How
ahead.
would it, I'm just. Why would you jump in the middle of a loop? That is weird.
There are
I
reasons
need
for
to do
doing
more
it.
Kotlin.
Yeah, I'm not. A big Kotlin guy
There's
myself.
reasons for go-tos, but they're not good reasons. Like,
I'm personally proud
another,
of. I was gonna say I'm just personally proud of the collaboration the Spring team has done with Graal on this
Yeah.
release.
Yeah.
We've been working a lot with the Graal team.
you better hurry up because, like, I have like 2 projects that are waiting for native images, and they're like, everybody knows.
What's the use case?
Really, memory reduction and actually CPU optimization. So even if it's like 10%, we want that.
CPU optimization you may not see a whole lot of that depending on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Depending on your use case.
Start time. Yeah.
Start time it's
Runtime CPU. Yeah.
It's supposedly there.
Unless you're using Scala.
Well,
I mean, so
that's your first mistake. But
Chris Linger has published a lot of the benchmarks at Twitter where they have seen improvements using Graal with Scala, but
that's the Graal JIT, not necessarily
is the Graal JIT, not necessarily native images.
right.
Yes.
Freddie's talking about native images.
That's true.
I mean, like anything IO bound, I have yet to see a benchmark for Graal that's shown the Graal native images to perform faster.
Well, hey, this release does have better user experience for the native image. That's another new feature. And they've actually got a lot of the native image utility got a lot of attention in this release. I can
Freddie
run
just
down.
wants to play with new toys. Come on, we all know what this is really about.
I use SDK Man to download the latest. It's actually available in the SDK Man, so that's kind of fun.
Yes, it is. Yes, you almost need SDK Man these days if you're working on frameworks.
We just talked about that on the Java Pop House. So if you don't know about our sister podcast, Java Pop House, you should go visit that. They were missing a point to plug it.
And
So, yeah.
other improvements would be the GraalVM's language and tools improvements. So now EMCA script 2020 mode features enabled by default, and Python was updated 3.8.2, includes a lot of performance improvements for the Python primitives. A couple others as well. So check it out. If you're in the GraalVM, or if you're not in the GraalVM, you should check it out. This is something that is definitely hot and can really change the way you do business, change the way you do things. So
We're going to try
taking
it.
a look at.
Yeah.
Yep. So then next on the list here would be JDK 15 EA, Early Access Build 24. It's now available, so go out there and get it. This is something that we should be taking a look at now, because this will be general release. It's right around the corner, right?
Yeah, I think they're starting to enter ramp down next month. So.
15 is GA? No, it's not GA.
No. They're starting. So first you do ramp down, and then there's a lot of the other kind of finishing activities. But the ramp down is the start, the beginning of the end, so to speak.
I believe it's September, right, when they are going to release?
GA, yeah, I think GA is September, but they're starting again hey, we're feature complete, start playing around with it, let us know what breaks.
Yep. Lots of too many issues to go through that they fixed in this build. So I was going to go through them, but there's about 150 of them.
And I think we actually talked about JDK 15 in the last episode, just as they were continuing to work on it. So, but yeah, then the news there is definitely they're going to be entering ramp down next month. So you'll soon have the fully featured JDK to start playing around with. Common features, Nash horns going away. So if you're using JavaScript in the JVM, watch out for that.
Hello and goodbye.
You have to use GraalVM now. Right?
Yeah.
But ZGC is production ready, and Shenandoah is production ready.
Oh,
Text
15?
blocks, text blocks and hidden classes to round it out. So
Yeah, that's
some cool stuff. I mean, I was a lot more impressed with some of the earlier releases, but getting those garbage collectors polished off for production usage is got to be a huge step.
Actually, yeah, that one is something that I've been getting feedback from where I work, where we should switch, or we should start looking at ZGC or ZGC instead of G1.
Different project, right?
ZGC?
No, I meant different project from the Graal.
He wants native images in GGC.
Oh, no, I want to know.
That's exactly what I'm confirming. I'm like,
Yes, different project.
So I think the next item would be one for Michael.
okay. Yeah. So it's so with COVID and all of the things people are doing in various countries to manage it, if you will, and as different countries open back up, they're doing different things. It was mentioned on Twitter. Was it this week? Last week, I think. That the app that Germany is going to be using to warn people about COVID exposure is backed by Spring. So it's the German Corona Warn app server. It's a Spring Boot Java app.
And this is a contact tracing app, basically.
Yeah, I believe so.
Cool.
I mean, it's good to see that stuff going out in open source. I mean, everybody it's already kind of just a privacy thing, at least if you can audit what.
Yeah, and to be clear, this is open source. It's out on GitHub. You can check it out.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That's good.
Yeah, that is cool. So just wanted to make a mention that the Jakarta YouTube channel is out there. And if you are looking to get to this, just go to the Jakarta website, and there's a link right there. Lots of great videos there, including some conference videos and tutorials. And
any of yours?
I'm not sure if mine's there or not, but I'm sure it is because I did the JSF meetup probably a couple months ago now. So it's probably there.
So they are also joining the 2012 video bandwagon.
Yeah, that they are. So
That's
it's
awesome.
a good resource. And then just to also kind of piggyback on that, Jakarta One Livestream Cloud Native conference just happened last month, and those talks are now available, so go out there and check those out. And also, Jakarta EE working group selections have been made, so I'll go ahead and list off who they are. Let's see here. What do we got? We have the steering committee participant member, Martin Veerberg. Committer member would be Arjen Tims, I believe.
Nice. Okay.
And then specification committee, Marcelo Anselmo, and committer member is Wiener Kiel. And then we've got marketing committee would be Wei Young-sen, and committer member is vacant. So that's good information, good news that the working steering committee is and specification and marketing committee are all filled here. And also some interesting information that's also in this post I'm reading, so I'll mention it, is that Jakarta MVC was approved by the spec committee, and it's going to be listed as one of the Jakarta EE specifications. So I don't know if you remember MVC, the framework that was going to go into Java EE 8 did not make it, and now it's going to formally be part of Jakarta EE. So Jakarta.
Hey Josh, for the
Yes.
steering committee,
Sure.
you had mentioned that they have an open spot. How are those positions filled? Are they looking for a volunteer? Is there
You mean the
election?
marketing committee, right?
Yeah, the working committee
just the
has to-
committee, just the committee positions.
You
Are
go
those
ahead
elected, or are
and
those?
it's elected. Yeah, you
Okay.
can go ahead and go out there and run for it, and then there would be a vote,
Okay.
basically.
How does the nomination process work? Because you have to be a member to vote, right?
Yes, I believe so. I'm not exactly sure. I wasn't really involved with the nomination process. I voted, but I can't speak to the intricacies of what they've done to, as far as.
I voted in the committer one, but I also was aware of the participant one as well.
I'm pretty sure you can nominate someone to, be the committer member if you wanted to, and then they'd be voted on. Of course, I'm not sure right now, like since this is vacant, if we could fill it now, or if that's got to happen at the year, every year or whatever. Not quite sure.
It's more of one of those prime spots to be if you want to get involved. Be looking for the next election.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cool.
So next up, GitHub assign issues to commenters.
Yay!
Patches welcome.
So who was it? That was a Firefox line, right? Or was it even before that?
Patches welcome.
That's probably as old as open source. I mean,
that could predate Firefox easily.
Yeah.
No. I think Firefox was where's the patch? Yeah.
I'm excited about this one because, we routinely get people asking, can I take this issue? Sure. And then there's no recording of that. So being able to do this is great. It also, gets people's faces associated with stuff, which is appreciated as people contribute to stuff. So, really excited about this feature.
Yeah, I think that's good. Makes things easier, and it also does get people more involved, I believe. So next up, we'll talk about the Eclipse Foundation moving to Europe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so the Eclipse Foundation announced that they're moving their headquarters to Belgium.
So where were they before? I mean, so
Canada.
I know they're
Canada.
Ottawa, right? I mean,
I believe that sounds right.
Yeah. So moving to Europe, I guess I read the release as well. It was kind of wishy-washy on the why.
Yeah,
I didn't.
That's putting it nicely.
I mean, so I get, moving around. I mean, usually it's a significant investment to move. Your different laws, different filing requirements. They're a charity. So, I mean, is this because Europe is more favorable to them? Is this because their clients or their collaborators are more focused in Europe? I personally am not, and the press release doesn't go far enough for me to figure out what this did for them.
So the paragraph that walks through that is, we believe this move to Europe is most effective way for us to achieve this goal, meaning continue innovation. The reason is straightforward. While we support a diverse international ecosystem, most of our growth has already been happening in Europe. With 170 of our member organizations and more than 900 of our committers based in Europe, the Eclipse Foundation is, by those measures and others, already the largest open source organization in Europe.
But
okay,
what?
that still doesn't. I mean,
So you're closer to your collaborators is the rationale.
But it doesn't say
by you.
It doesn't say that that's a majority. Those are big numbers,
Sure.
but it doesn't say that those are majority numbers. Like, you could say the Spring is the most popular framework in Europe. That doesn't change the fact that we have bigger user bases elsewhere in the world.
Move Michael to France now.
France is opening up for COVID, so sign me up. I can't speak French though.
Let's say
So I don't know I don't know that they're actually
Français.
I don't know that they're actually moving though, are they? Out of Canada? I think that they are still going to be based in Canada. as
I
well.
don't know that they said that, hey, Mike Milinkovic is moving or anything like that. I mean, they're just, I mean, it's almost like a business move. It's a filing status. They're saying your home base is Europe.
This feels like when Boeing moved from Washington to Chicago. Like,
Sure.
they moved an office with a handful of employees, and that there's tax benefit differences.
Oh, wait, yeah,
Like that.
a number
They
of
moved
companies
nothing.
moved to Bermuda. Just
Yeah, exactly.
it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, there's no.
hey, we're we're in Bermuda now.
Yeah.
I mean,
because you don't have to pay taxes.
It's a paper thing. It's not a.
so they have one developer advocate, right? Like
Yeah, Ivar,
right? It's
Grimstad.
Yeah. Is he the only one who is on a payroll?
Mike
No,
gets paid.
so Mike gets paid.
Mike gets paid.
They
Yeah, Mike
actually
gets paid
so.
well.
No.
I was going to say,
Hold on.
like, Eclipse Foundation is fairly well funded.
Yeah.
No. But like I thought that the big news was like he was an employee. Like I thought like.
I think it's because
They're
he's
all employees, though.
Okay,
So Mike
okay.
is an employee, he takes a salary. I mean, all of that. I mean, they're a charity. They're still a 501c6 charity, so it's all
or
disclosed.
whatever the Canadian equivalent is, right?
Yeah, right. But all of that is disclosed publicly, where their money's going. So, I mean, if you
I think
wanted
the
to
big thing
see
with-
the Eclipse Foundation's employees, it's out there.
Yeah. And I think the big thing with Ivar was that he was the first developer advocate for Jakarta EE, right? There probably are advocates for other technologies in Eclipse, I'm sure. I know
For
they've
a
got a
minute-
big marketing committee, so.
Yeah, for a minute I thought they
There's
were
like
moving
Wayne
because of
Eaton
Ivar.
and there's a number of them for the IDE and IoT segments. So I think that the significance of Ivar was the first one for the Java EE segment.
I see.
They've always had a marketing department for a very long time. Actually, they've had a marketing department. So
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, it's interesting. There's probably there's probably a story that we don't know, but from what we gather, it's like, all right, it's fine. Europe is nice.
We'll have to have Mike back on.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great experience.
Yeah, you can talk about it.
Mike, if you're still listening,
The press release did not go far enough, in my opinion, to explain the rationale behind it.
I agree.
I'm sure there's a very good reason for it, but
it's a big move.
we'd
But
like,
yeah.
it's a big deal. So we'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, Apache Software Foundation is US, right?
Apache is U.S. They've always been U.S. It's a 501c3 charity, so it's
Ooh,
a charity.
that's a tough one.
Yeah, so it's a charity in the same way as like colleges and hospitals and religious organizations, where the contributions are fully tax deductible. Whereas Eclipse Foundation was more of a 501c6, where it was more of a
It gives you more
business league,
latitude, right? Yeah.
where you have more flexibility, but you don't have as much tax deductibility. I mean, again, Eclipse has been always more tightly aligned to industry, whereas Apache is always been, it feels like more modeled after independent academia, almost modeled. Is what I would consider them.
Okay.
So, I would love to understand why a move like this would make sense for them. Just because, there may be tax incentives or things in that nature.
and
Where
it could be a mundane ascent. Like,
They just want mayo with their fries.
you know what? I wholeheartedly
understood
agree
mayo and
with mayo with
fries.
fries. this is a tech podcast, but I'll die on that hill.
and as long as you're not talking about like milkshakes and fries, I guess we're fine. But
There's milkshakes and oh
there's
gosh.
people that like that.
No, actually, it was so funny. A side story was I ordered to go so the first thing is I went to get some burgers. I wanted to get my burger fix. So I go to Five Guys to get whatever takeout, and apparently when I walk in, they ran out of buns, like hamburger buns, which like right now in the U.S. there is a shortage of beef. And I would have completely understood if there was they'd run out of beef. No, they run out of bun. I'm like, all right, fine. So I have to.
One comes in packets of 8, one comes in packets of 6, sort of thing.
It's like we ordered the same amount, but it wasn't the same. So then I walk into Fat Burger, which is another like hamburger chain, and they have this thing called fat fries and skinny fries, and I'm like, I'm like looking at it, and first time I see the menu, I'm like, I don't understand it. What do you mean? And then she the cashier, very helpful. She just pointed this picture because apparently she had this conversation a lot. And fat fries are like the steak fries, And skinny fries are just your regular fries. I'm like, oh, okay, I like the fat. I have a choice now on fries. So
There's nothing skinny about fries.
Yeah, no, that's what I was confused to. It's like, are they skinny fries?
I'm going to get fat either way I eat these, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Last time I checked, the end result is the same to my waistline.
Yes. So fat fries with mayo. I'll die on that hill.
It's not fat, it's momentum.
All right, next one, State of Loom.
Yeah, so I added this one, and really, I think we'll probably need to cover it more in a future episode because it was a fairly. I mean, what to me felt like a very large shift in a series of tweets. There was the kind of the state of Loom was pushed out there, and the last time we talked about Loom, it was around fibers as sort of a
lightweight threads,
kind of a lightweight thread is the way it was explained, where threads could basically, the OS has their version of threads, and then we have these fibers that could be rehydrated into threads when they're in use and then kind of go dormant and be flipped out so that you could have this massively scalable data structure to support concurrency in the JVM. Well, looking at the state of Loom right now, the fiber terminology is kind of vanished. And now they're talking about this concept of virtual threads, which seems very similar, but when you look at the API design, looks like a pretty significant shift from the fibers terminology. So Loom is changing. It looks like, they're trying to model it more after threads than trying to invent something new, which may be a big relief to many Java developers, just seeing something similar, but still got to do more digging and research into what exactly direction they're going. What is a virtual thread versus what was a fiber?
Yeah, and I think that's yeah, and I know there's implications for or at least we're reading there's implications. So like, is this the reactive killer?
Yeah.
Which I'm sure that we're going to have conversations about it.
So yeah, more on this. I mean, for me, it was, for someone that has been not actively following Loom as like a contributor or anything like that, but just kind of trying to keep up with it, since any change the concurrency model in Java. I mean, Java is almost kind of famous for its significant concurrency flexibility as a language. So any changes to that is definitely worth covering.
Yeah. Easy to shoot yourself in the foot with concurrency. But that's
and I'm sure you can still shoot yourself in the foot great with virtual threads, but maybe in new and interesting ways.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, more on this later, but wanted our viewers to hear about it here. Look into the tweet, look into the state of Loom. We'll add the link to the state of Loom to the show notes. It goes into significantly around what the API contracts are looking at that they're evaluating right now. Again, Loom isn't a feature in any of the JDK releases right now, but there are branches off of the Open JDK that include some of the POC concepts or the early concepts of Loom if you're looking to try some of this stuff out.
Mm-hmm. Now there's one more news item. I think, Michael, you wanted to address it before we dive into our discussion topic.
Yeah. So we talked about Graal earlier on tonight, and Mark Reinhold made an announcement almost actually a month ago today that I don't think we covered in the last episode, which is Project. Mark, if you're listening, I apologize. I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation of this. Is it Leiden?
Leiden?
That looks like Leiden to me.
I'm horrible at pronunciations, so that's...
we survived Lagom, so...
So, Project...
Sorry. Type safe. Light Ben. I don't know.
Oh, God.
Back to Michael.
It's like one for the homies.
Yeah. So, Project, are we agreeing Leiden? Is that?
Yeah, let's go with
Leiden. Works on my box.
Okay. So, Project Leiden, the idea here is, and I will quote the call for discussion that Mark Reinhold posted. I hereby invite discussion of a new project, Layden, whose primary goal will be to address the long-term pain points of Java's slow startup time, slow time to peak performance, and large footprint. And it wants to do this via static images. And so the idea that the things that everybody's excited about for getting the native image capabilities from Graal actually in our JDK is interesting.
Yeah.
I foresee, given that they both work for, like, Graal is an Oracle thing. Layden is obviously, Mark is announcing it, so Oracle as well. I'm really curious, how thick of a wall between those two projects will there be? Will there be sharing of technology? Will there be collaboration between the two, or are they going at this with a clean slate? In his call for discussion, he does say he will take inspiration from Graal, as well as other places, but it doesn't specifically say that I'm. Actually, I take it back. Sorry. Layden will add static images to the Java platform specification, and we expect that GraalVM will evolve to implement that specification. So whether or not that's the default implementation or not will be interesting, but just interesting to see, like I said, that type of tech is actually coming to the JVM in general, which means that, with all the different JDKs that are out there now, that kind of stuff coming around will be interesting.
So Layden is a project to essentially generate essentially a native image out of a Java program, so you can run it locally.
So it sounds like.
And I guess I'm failing to see the difference between GraalVM and native, especially if GraalVM supports a open, like a Java spec.
Well, imagine if you did. Yeah, imagine if you didn't have to pull down Graal to do that. Imagine if you just downloaded OpenJDK and could generate a native image. That's what this sounds like to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So
imagine that you're building your app. So Freddie, you talked earlier, you got a project, you're waiting for this, right? Imagine you're building your app, and as you're developing things, you want the fast turnaround time of being able, restarting stuff, dynamic reloading of class paths with your IDE, all that kind of stuff. So that's working in your regular Java. You're cruising all along with that kind of stuff. Think Spring Developer Tools and that kind of thing, where it's dropping class paths and reloading classes and all that kind of stuff. And then when you're done, you still need that small memory footprint. You still need that fast startup time, that kind of stuff. Then you build the native image. Run some additional black box testing on that, and ship the native image. Obviously, that takes away some of the write once, run everywhere, concepts around Java. But in the cloud world, where you're bringing along in a Docker image, you're bringing on everything with you. It's an interesting idea.
Kind of nice to have that as part of the JDK.
So making it part of the JDK, so you don't have to go on, I guess, which, okay, that's the question. So for Open JDK then.
Yeah, I mean, think of all the gymnastics you do to make a GraalVM work. A lot of times you're downloading a Docker image, you're building Docker in Docker, because you have the Docker image of Graal, and then you're taking the native image out of the Docker in Docker, and then you're done. So there's a lot of
that's true. Even
misdirection.
Even if you want to do it without Docker, it's you have to have GCC and the headers and a bunch of stuff to make it happen. I agree.
There's also a much bigger thing here, which is the native image stuff for Graal currently is very expensive. Like it takes a long time. No, I'm not talking about time. I'm talking about dollars and cents. To use GraalVM in production,
to do the enterprise.
Right. You've got to buy Oracle's JDK. Then you've got to buy a license for the Graal Enterprise Edition. That's all by CPU. That's not by container. That's all by CPU. It's a very expensive proposition. Now all of a sudden, this being brought into every JDK on the planet frees the licensing model of that to anybody.
But isn't that then Oracle competing against itself on this?
Yeah. It's probably. Oh, I mean, if you're looking at it from an adoption perspective, though, what's a better way for them to get adoption? I mean, Graal would be the commercial supported version. They'll have the open.
But there is a GraalVM community native image, and there's GPL2 with class path.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm confused. Are you saying you can't run Graal in production? I'm missing your.
I don't think you can run Graal. I could be wrong in this, but I don't believe it. It's like the Oracle JDK. You can't run that in production unless you're paying Oracle.
You need a license.
Right. I believe the Graal Enterprise Edition native image, which has all of the performance stuff that everybody brags about.
There is performance stuff. Yeah, you're right. Right.
I know all that stuff. If you're going for that, you've got to pay Oracle to use it in production.
Yes, to use the enterprise. But I thought community, even though it doesn't have all of the performance improvements and bells and whistles, I thought you could use community in production. I have to relook at the license.
Yeah, but can you do the static? You can't do a static image without it. Can you?
No, there's native image community edition.
Yeah, you can do static. You can do static in community. So I don't see it as the licensing thing. So I would look at what they would do with Project Layden as bringing the community edition into OpenJDK. I would assume that they would keep enterprise support in. And I mean, honestly, it could be enterprise support isn't Graal. And it could just kill Graal, honestly. Maybe they move Graal Enterprise Edition into the Oracle JDK. Oh. And then it's like, there's no more Graal. It's just Open JDK.
Graal is more than native image, though, right? Like you have the
GraalVM is like Java.
The multi-language support.
You're not looking at what is it, C4 or C2? Shit, I can't remember.
Yeah,
what's the
C2?
C2. Yeah. So you've got basically a Java written JIT. There are people that want that, but it doesn't sound like that's what Layden is. It's moving just the native image support in.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really the native image stuff.
Right.
That could be. Again, it could be super interesting. We'll see where they go. Maybe I don't need to go to Graal.
Yeah, just gotta wait.
It's gotta wait. And if I wait,
if it gets delivered faster than modules, then you won't have to wait terribly long.
They also get CGC, right? With native images.
Native support with ZGC.
Nice. I want it all. Because Amazon charged me by the CPU cycle.
How many of those have you had tonight?
Not enough. Not enough. All right. I guess those are all the news items for today. And now let's indicate the last for our discussion topic, which is if you being a follower for some of the people in the Java ecosphere, you might have realized this. If not, you may have missed it. That is Java's 25th birthday.
Cheers!
So cheers!
Cheers! Well, it depends on who you ask, because some people are claiming 26.
That was 28. Like James Gosling was like, well, depending on when you count.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Find the tweet.
You always try to appear older than what you are. Like at the beginning, wanted to get to the 21st birthday.
I don't think we're at that age.
No, we're past that. We're trying to be younger now. But yeah. So we'll put some links on the show notes, but it is 20.
Here's James Gosling. 25th anniversary of Java has been mostly fun conversations with old friends. Besides, it's really more like the 28th anniversary.
Ooh.
But depends. Are you talking about when Oak was created or actually Java?
I'm guessing that's the distinction.
What was the
Greenhorn.
Yes, Greenhorn.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. So in memory for that, I was gonna ask the group what was your first Java experience? And I guess I'll be the volunteer. I'll start first. I guess the very first experience was in college. They were teaching Java in college when I was there. So and I remember it was it was a UI application, so we needed to use Java Swing to actually do it and work with the data grid data bag, or what is the data grid layout manager. It's like, oh my god. But so that was like, and I don't know if that's cheating because that was sort of like the very first exposure I had to the Java language. But after that was, I think, at the startup. So I was working on a startup and for algorithm trading, and they decided to pick up on Java. That is after a stint that I had on ASP and ASP.NET. And and then never looked back ever since. So.
Yeah. Now my first one was also, it wasn't in college. It was actually in graduate school. All of my undergraduate was in C++. And then upon going to graduate school, it was like, well, everything in graduate school is going to be in Java. So if you don't know Java, you need to take this prerequisite course to learn it. So I took that, and that's what introduced me to Eclipse and to the JDK. Learned about a little bit of swing, a little bit of collections type stuff, and really, like, it blew my mind compared to a lot of the stuff I had been doing, either working with C or in .NET. Is just the openness of the language. You could find somebody had already written the thing you were trying to do, and all the source code was out there, and it was a lot of being able to copy and paste stuff and kind of learn through others. And really, when I switched to Java is when I started getting into open source. So I credit the JDK and Java very much for me getting involved in Apache and all of the open source ecosystem that I'm involved with now.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I can go next, I guess. When I was in college, again, just like with Bob, it was C++ and COBOL. I did a lot of COBOL and also some assembler, which was not fun. I don't want to go back to those days, but didn't really learn Java until after I was working. I actually was a database guy from the beginning. I worked with Oracle, and I liked it, and I became kind of an Oracle DBA, and wanted to write web applications. So I was writing with PL SQL, and using the plugin, which allowed you to create web applications with it, and it just was not, I couldn't do a lot.
We won't hold it against you.
Yeah, I couldn't do a lot with it, so I kind of got into doing some JSPs, working with J2EE, things like that. So, that was kind of my first intro to Java. I got into that, learned everything I know about Java on my own, didn't take any classes or anything, but, went through the web and went through the original Java tutorials, started with NetBeans way back when, been using it ever since. And, I kind of use Eclipse every once in a while for some things because, certain APIs work better in Eclipse or whatever. But yeah, pretty much been with NetBeans and kind of got my start with JSPs and then learned that those were dangerous and went on from there.
Funny how those first IDEs you just kind of stick.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Not mine.
What?
So I did not start Java in college. I went to a mainframe school. So I was learning mainframe. I learned a little VB, a little C, a little C++ in college. I actually took the job I did out of college because they were going to train me in Java. Java was just blowing up at the time. It was actually I was hired just after the .com bust. So I graduated in the spring of 2001, and so it was probably it was one of those times where you were lucky to still have your offer when you got out of college. So I started with a consulting company. They trained me in Java. My original IDE was Visual Age for Java.
Ooh, okay.
Showing my age.
That one didn't stick, huh?
No. I remember when Eclipse became this cool thing, but my first version exposure to Eclipse was actual Rational Application Studio.
Okay. Oh, because they have like that plug-in system, right?
Yep. So, so I learned Java, like I said, as a consultant. My first project was actually working for a major retailer in the Chicagoland area that used Java on the laptops that they sent with their repair guys out to repair like your appliances. And so it was a really cool project with that. But I've always loved how approachable Java was. So if you think back, back when I was learning Java, it was Java 1.2 was the version I learned on. Back when they actually had to explain Java 1.2 is Java 2, like you had to explain to people that.
Yeah.
But back then, your options for programming languages and access was, maybe some C, C++ stuff, but on Windows that was tough. And other computers was hard to get access to. Like nobody had a Linux box laying around, or you might, and if you were really really
weird.
out there. I did dual boot in college, but but regardless, but like JavaScript hadn't really caught on much yet. So like there was HTML. You go to the library, the programming stuff was basically geared towards already working professionals that had frankly already learned their stuff, like COBOL and assembler and maybe some VB and some SQL and that kind of thing. Like all those options weren't approachable to a college kid. Like I couldn't just start picking one of those up and easily learn it. Java was something where I could find oodles of information online. I could find communities. I could find all these resources to get me productive with that language and the related technologies that I just couldn't do with any other language back then.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that I really loved, and like that has obviously snowballed into open source and my career ever since.
Oh gosh, I remember. Yeah, like Java Ranch used to be the
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
spent a lot of time there before my Java certification. You bet.
Used to visit Java.net every day, every morning.
Yeah, no, that's. Well, no, it's not. Java Ranch is not gone. It's actually still maintained.
It's still running.
But not Java.net.
Oh, Java.net, yeah. That's.
I still go to Java Ranch every once in a while.
I don't go to it, but it comes up in some of my Google searches.
Yeah, that's.
Stack Overflow.
Anybody else use Java, the Sun Java Studio Creator?
Gosh, no.
I use that thing, and that kind of was a NetBeans starter. And the reason I like this was because you could actually do drag and drop to create your HTML and your JSPs with it and stuff, which was kind of slick. But then, of course, the code that it made was not always
just garbage.
So that's kind of where I learned it. Drag and drop is not always the best. But Sun Java Studio Creator. Look it up sometime. That was one of the ideas I started with as well.
No.
That was back in the days when you would do Word save as HTML and cringe if you ever looked at the source.
Oh yeah.
Oh Lord.
All the TDs.
All CSS was inlined and
it wasn't CSS. It was all like hard coded.
Yeah.
It was all hard coded.
Pixel GIFs. Pixel GIF.
Yes.
Oh Lord.
Ampersand NBSP.
Yes, I remember those.
Yes.
No, I think it's sort of like it's back to memory link. Like what was the other one that? What was the name of? Was it Expert Exchange or something like that? There used to be like.
Yep, that sounds familiar.
Expert Exchange. Yep.
Yeah, that was a discussion board that they put a paywall in front of it, and that's when Stack Overflow took off. That's people just left it. But yeah, no, I mean, it's true. Like you could find anything on Java online. Like super easy.
The server side.
Yeah, the server side. That was the other one. Damn.
Yep.
No, so yeah. I mean, it's been a great journey. It has paid well. I made a living out of it, so I can't complain. What do you guys think is going to be the next 25? I mean, we'll close it off with what you guys think is going to be the next 25 years of Java, because I don't think it's going to be dead.
Very likely it's not. I mean, COBOL is still kicking, and that's over 50 years old. They say Java is the new COBOL.
If anything, it's
I just put out a tweet. I put out a tweet the other day looking for somebody who's a professional COBOL developer right now to collaborate on something. So
Josh,
don't
quick.
call us.
Did you get any replies?
I did.
Josh,
I did.
Yeah, no, I mean, all of the claims that Java is dead or dying. I mean, that's all pretty much BS. The ecosystem keeps driving it. everybody's been waiting for Oracle to kill it or something to kill it, and it just hasn't happened. And a lot of that is because of the community behind it. So, as long as the community continues to grow and keep bringing new people in, it could last another 50 years. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, it's surprisingly adaptable. Every time something new comes out, they just adopt it. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I just was going to piggyback on that and say I think it's going to continue going for quite a while. I'm in the camp. Everybody has their spin on what Oracle did with it. When Sun sold off to, gave it to Oracle, whatever, that was probably a good thing in my book because Sun wasn't doing much with it. At that point it was. They had to do something, and I think they did the right thing. That's a different discussion. But I think that if Oracle continues to move it along like they've been doing, I think it's going to continue to flourish. And you have things like GraalVM spinning off and, all these different, avenues that you can take now with Java. You're not just coding Java. You can use Jakarta EE. You can use Spring. You can use microprofile. You can do lots of different avenues. And I don't think that those spin-offs are just going to die. I think that they're going to continue to evolve. Some of them will die off, but I do think that the main players are going to continue on for years to come.
Yeah, for me. I do feel that Java will be around for another 25 years, if for no other reason the enterprise has invested so heavily in it. It's just not going to, right. It's not, it's cost prohibitive to get rid of it at this point. It'll be interesting. I guess one thing that I would like to see over the next 25 years is, and maybe this is just my lack of knowledge of the people at that level, is it feels like there's a cohort of graybeards kind of behind the curtain for Java.
Of course there
Brian
is.
Brian gets the Mark Reinholds and those kinds of things. They're not going to take it the next 25 years. There's going to be
they need to retire.
cohort.
Like we want them to retire. This is that they work so hard. They deserve a break.
Right, and in order for it to continue, like we joke around, Java's the new Cobalt. Well, Cobalt's stagnant. That's the rub against Cobalt.
Yeah.
Like Java has continued to evolve over the past 25 years. Like Java, looking at the Java we're just talking about that we learned, and the Java of today,
It's way different.
very, very different.
Yeah.
In order for that to continue, that evolution needs to continue for it to stay relevant. That's the big rub against like the COBOLs and those kinds of things. Is the fact that COBOL 85 is still the standard. Like you can argue that there are newer versions, but by and large, it's still very, very, very much like COBOL 85, and which is almost 40 years old now. So if Java ever gets to that point, Java will be in trouble. They'll have the same problem. Something will come along and eat its lunch. But in order for it to keep evolving, we need new talent at that level. We need to grow that talent pool. My concern with Oracle is that in place they're going to continue to invest. Like it's easy to keep I don't want to say it's easy, but they've got that graybeard team and it seems to be chugging along and everything seems to be fine. But now is the time to be bringing in that new talent to groom them, to get them ready for that the next 25 years.
I think that's happening. It's just that the names are so I think one of the problems is like the problems.
I can completely admit that that request may be completely that I just don't know what's going on and I would love to hear it.
No, I think about like Alexei Shiplev or Chris Stanlinger from Twitter, and essentially the GraalVM team, which is like they are pushing it forward, right? Like, they or at least they're being stewarded by the deities or the graybeards. So some of that is happening. Is it enough? I hope so. But at least I know that there is a new generation that is coming in. But
The interesting thing you said there is both of those names are outside of Oracle.
Yeah, yes.
But I think I think is a plus. I mean, so the ecosystem is being set up right now where you have distributions coming from different players, you have contributors coming from different companies. It's not just about Oracle. The community consists of 5 to 10 different companies that are contributing back to the JDK. Now, not evenly, but that's a good thing, in my opinion.
I view that while I agree, I view that's also probably the biggest risk over the next 25 years for Java.
Fragmentation.
Exactly, yeah, fragmentation. The fact that before it was 1 or 2 JDKs, now we've got everybody has their own JDK. Mm-hmm. The risk of fragmentation increases exponentially every time you add a new one. And I view that as the biggest risk to Java over the next 25 years.
It's already a little bit hindering, right? Before.
Is it?
A little bit.
Can you give an example? I'm actually interested because I don't know that I have one.
We have gone through this, right? Like you can go to python.org and download Python, and that's the Python. You can go
Python.
Yeah, you can go to Ruby and download Ruby.
Okay. There is no canonical Java place for anything.
Yeah, but have you been burned by fragmentation?
I don't know what burn is, because I don't use it that way, right? Like fragmentation will be me using Ubuntu versus Debian, which I don't do a lot, right? So I think that there is a risk for new people to go into the language. If right now fragmentation is starting, we're at the root, right? We are at the beginning, where there's really almost no risk because it's all of them is really OpenJDK, right? Are things, and part of it is TCK plus OpenJDK tests and all this that is trying to make sure that we don't break apart. But on the areas where that becomes weak, or that is not completely specified, or that tests are not covering, and there's again, could be simple things like
or people choose to add proprietary features on top of things. Like look at the problem with application servers is you had the EE spec that was this much, but what came with an application server was this much. And as soon as you start using that stuff, like there's fragmentation, you couldn't migrate, and that's some of the risks. And
I think that you're right. I think you're right, Bob. Like there is right now is a no consequence. Like as of today, we can almost take any code written in Java and it will run on any of the different flavors that we have. But we just want to be cognizant that we want to keep that for 25 more years.
It's a risk. It has not been realized as of yet, but I don't disagree. That is the worst thing that could happen is fragmentation where, well, now I'm locked into Corrado or now I'm locked into
J9, etc.
J9. Yeah. I mean, that's where that becomes
a problem.
Yeah.
But let's hope, our favorite, breadwinner, a toast for you, Java, for your 25th birthday, and hopefully for 25 more, or even more than that, because we want. Well, I do want to retire at some point in time. I don't know if I'll be programming 20. You know what? The way the economy and everything is going, I probably program.
Yeah, you got a lot of kids too, Freddie. So.
Teapot got into Carol Black, so.
Yes. That's a good thing about our profession is that we can do it long into our retirement, right?
Yeah. As long as I can type.
Well, ageism in our industry is a thing.
Yeah, there's that too. Oh well. Well, I think with that, we're past the hour mark, and you have seen our faces enough. With that, we conclude this episode of OffHeap. Thank everybody for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed this video episodes. So if you didn't know, we are actually publishing video episodes now, starting from today. So go take a look at YouTube or your favorite podcatcher if it actually supports video. And that's it. This is Freddie signing off.
Bob signing off.
Josh signing off.
Michael signing off. If you like us, follow us on Twitter at OffHeap. If you don't like us, tell your enemies to follow us on Twitter at OffHeap.
We just want the numbers, and if you're in, remember that we actually are the Pop House, the part of the Pop House network. We have a bunch of podcasts you can listen to, including Java Pop House, which is Java topics, breaking into open source, which is essentially open source projects and how to get into them, and the Stack podcast, which talks about not just Java but also like front end and essentially full stack. So listen to all of them in our show notes. All right, take care. Happy programming, everyone.
Cheers.